Hello everyone, Yanni Plays here, and today we are going to talk about Minecraft trees and why Minecraft trees are not very realistic and how to build a realistic Minecraft tree. This is going to be a generic tree. As you can imagine, there are multiple different trees, different shapes and different forms. Now this video here is the introduction video on my 4 steps on how to build those trees. I will upload more videos where we talk about more specific trees and how to shape and form some of them. So if you want to see those, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you're being notified whenever I upload another of my tree videos. In Minecraft we have multiple different log types. Each of those logs have their own planks and their stripped wood. However, you don't have to stay within just one family. You can mix and match and bring different planks to go with the oak, for example. I especially like to use spruce together with the oak because I think that goes very well together. Or with the jungle log, you can use the dark oak that also has a very good match to it. But we also have other blocks in Minecraft that you can use to texture or build a tree with. So you can use brown mushroom or shulker box, the different types of concrete. We have our soil sand and soil, brown wool or even ancient debris can be used to build or texture a tree. Once I figured out what type of tree I would like to build, the first step is going to be to create the rough shape. Now, depending if I play in creative or if I play in survival, the start actually looks a little bit different. When I build a tree in survival, I usually use dirt as my base material. Because in survival you have to go up and down quite often, you have to place and replace blocks, and dirt is just easier and faster to work with. If I build a tree in creative, then I'm going directly with the log type that I'm going to use. To get started, I usually start in a 4x4 and then I pull one side up until I'm about at the height that I want to go. Now, even if I'm building a straight tree, I am still going to give it a little bit of a slant to one side. We're just gonna put that on here. And we even can give it a little bit of diagonal here. Just about like that. Now we're going back down and we are bringing the other sides up a little bit, so that the base shape is flowing into each other. So here where we go diagonal, we're gonna place a few more blocks. And then frequently we're flying away, we're looking at it. I don't like the bottom here, I'm gonna take a couple blocks off. And then once we have our base trunk done, I'm starting with the branches. I usually start somewhere in the middle. And if you look at real life trees, you see that they usually branch off in areas and then the trunk is getting thinner. So now I have my first branch done, but of course I don't want to have a perfectly level branch. I want to have one that either slopes up or slopes down. This one here, let's just go with a little arch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place more blocks on top. Actually here in the center I'm going to give it a little bit more. And then we're branching back down, and the last few we are going lower. And then I'm removing the ones in between. Look at it from this side. Remove a couple here. I'm trying to have them connected at least diagonal. For example, this one here I like. In places where I just have one little dot, I'm just gonna give it a little bit more so that you have a little bit a bigger connection. Now I may want to add a branch that comes out to one side over here, and since this one here is a heavy branch that is hanging down, I'm also going to do This one here hanging down a little bit. So we're just flying around, we're placing blocks and we're removing blocks. And now you also understand why in survival mode I am using dirt, because dirt is easier and faster to remove than all of those log pieces. Now at the center of the tree, the trunk usually splits off in 2 different or 3 different directions. And I'm trying to imitate that here with one branch going up a lot in height instead of going out a lot. And that's how I'm working the whole tree. I am putting branches out, give them different elevations until we are all the way at the bottom, however low I want to go with those branches. Once we're all the way around, all the way to the bottom, we can fly around again. We can make sure that we like what we see, can make sure that we don't have any floating logs where we remove too many blocks. And once we like our initial shape, we can go to the second step. Now in the second step, we are going to add little branches and little twigs. And I'm doing that with fences and fence gates. Now as you can see here, I decided to go with spruce because I think spruce goes really well with the oak block. And those fences we are just putting at different places of the tree, wherever we think we need a small little branch coming out. I like to have them at the end. I also like to have them coming down at the bottom, or if you want, you can put up a little branch coming up. You even can have a small little branch coming over. And I'm just going all around the tree and put those on different places. Now, if you look at the real tree, you can see that most of the small twigs are actually towards the end of the big branches, where here in the center we don't have much. However, we can still place a few little ones around at the bottom, or we can place a few leaves here and there. With the fence gate, I'm doing the same. However, I open them up so that they connect and it just looks like 2 little twigs coming out instead of just 1. Now, as you can see in this step, I am still using the logs because when you fly around or if you walk around and you place all of the little twigs, you may see a little area where you think, I kind of would like to have a little branch coming out here. And then you just go ahead and you put that branch in wherever you want it. You always can go a step or 2 back and add a little bit more. That is not a problem. Now in the third step, we are going to place all of the leaves. For that, we are just going out to the end of our branches and we're placing down some leaves, especially around those little twigs, but don't hesitate to leave some air gaps or leave the twig exposed on one side. Not everything has to be fully covered. The same on the top side. The top doesn't have to be fully covered, but if you want, you can build out a little bit more in one area, leave it a little bit sparse in another one, leave air gaps in between. Now at the bottom, try to go sparse. Don't put too many leaves at the bottom because again, this leaf block here probably doesn't get a lot of sunlight, so this tree naturally wouldn't generate any leaves here. I also try to always have the leaves connected with each other, so don't have any lonely leaves just sitting somewhere. And then we just go around. I start on the outside. Wherever you have big branches close together, you can connect the leaves. So you can form a whole canopy. And every time when you have one section completed, one side of it completed, fly back, take a look at it to find out if there are any more places where we need to place a few more leaves. Once you have all the leaves completed, you should have a good coverage towards the end of the branches, but towards the center of the tree you should just have here and there a single block, because that's where we don't have sunlight. That's where we're not going to have too much leaves when we look at the trees out in the nature. If you can, also fly above the tree and look down to see that we have a good coverage, because that's where the tree is getting most of its sun from, and that's where the tree should have most of the leaves. At the opposite, if you are under the tree and you look up, you should see a lot of the logs, you should see a lot of the twigs and not as many leaves, because here the tree doesn't get the sun from, and that's why we don't have that many leaves on this side. Now the last step will be the texture step, and that is where we are going to bring in a lot of different textures. Back here you can see different textures that I brought in a tree itself, and then also the texture that we are bringing around the tree at the bottom. Now as you can see, I used 3 different leaves. Those leaves have mostly the same color. It's the oak leaf, it's the acacia leaf, and it's the azalea leaf. Now the azalea leaf is a little bit lighter, so I am not going crazy with this one, because I personally don't like to have a lot of different colors. However, the acacia leaf is pretty much the same color, just slightly different texture. I also used different buttons, and then you can use stairs and slabs or even trapdoors to bring different levels of elevation in. So if you focus onto the leaves, you can see that here and there we have a few lighter colored leaves. In some areas, those are the azalea leaves. I'm trying to place them in places where we're going to have a lot of sun exposure, and not as many down here in the darker areas. Then to texture the trunk itself, you can use stairs, you can use planks, you can use slabs that you can fill up some areas. You can lower the branches with 2 slabs. You can go like a half block down. And I put some dark oak buttons on places where we may hit a branch one time and the branch broke off. We have those all around, just to give a different texture to the tree, that especially if you're a little bit further away, it just breaks up this log textures that we have everywhere, and it gives a little bit more interest to some areas in a tree. And then at the bottom of the tree, we are starting to build our root system. I used some stripped dark oak to actually give it a little bit more of a root feeling, because roots usually don't have all the texture that the trunk itself has. I like to use the mossy cobblestone to just show that it is a moist, wet area under the tree with all the moss growing everywhere. Now with 1.17, the moss carpet and the moss blocks that we can put in. You can put pots all around it, put on some ferns, put on grass. You can use some flowers to give some color pops. So that kind of depends on where is your tree and what is around, just to smooth it into the surrounding. Now in this video, we just built a generic tree. If you would like to know how to build a maple tree or an oak or a fir tree, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and watch out for the tree playlist. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, and I hope I see you at the next video. Goodbye.